Another World, known as Out of This World in North America, is a 1991 cinematic platform action-adventure game created by French designer Eric Chahi. The game follows Lester Knight Chaikin, a young physicist who, after a laboratory experiment goes wrong, is abruptly transported to an alien world and forced to fight for survival in a hostile environment. Remarkably, Another World was developed almost entirely by Chahi himself over a period of about 2 years. He coded his own game engine and crafted all the art and animations, relying on vector graphics instead of hand-drawn pixel sprites to drastically reduce memory usage. The game's design emphasizes cinematic storytelling through visuals and action rather than words. There is virtually no dialogue or text on screen, and minimal user interface elements, creating an immersive, language-independent narrative. Upon its release, Another World drew wide acclaim for its innovative use of cinematic cutscenes and atmospheric visuals, and it became both a commercial success and an influential landmark in game design. Critics often cite it as one of the best video games of its era, thanks to its artistic ambition and unique presentation. The first area of Another World sees Lester, the protagonist, climb out of a lake into an alien wilderness, only to be immediately pursued by a deadly beast. In the game, players guide Lester through a series of platforming and puzzle challenges on the dangerous alien planet, using simple controls to run, jump, and interact with the environment. After Lester narrowly survives the wildlife in the alien world's wilderness, he is captured by a race of humanoid aliens and taken to an underground prison. He soon escapes with the help of an alien captive, nicknamed Buddy by fans, and the two unlikely allies must work together to evade recapture, traverse perilous landscapes, battle alien guards, and solve environmental puzzles in order to survive. The gameplay has a deliberate, trial-and-error nature. Lester is highly vulnerable, usually killed by a single hit or misstep, and there are no health bars or extra lives. The screen has no HUD or on-screen instructions at all, aside from a brief oxygen gauge during underwater sections, and characters speak only in an unintelligible alien language with no subtitles. This lack of guidance means the player learns by experimenting, and often by dying, figuring out solutions to each hazard or puzzle through intuition. According to Chahi, this unforgiving design was intentional. He wanted death to be part of the exploration, a part of the experience, reinforcing the theme of survival in a hostile world. Generous checkpoints are provided, however, allowing the adventure to resume quickly after each failure. This design, combined with cinematic cutscenes that play out seamlessly during gameplay, gives Another World a distinctive film-like quality despite its relatively simple controls. One of the most noteworthy aspects of Another World is its groundbreaking technical design. Eric Chahi built a custom game engine and chose to render the game's graphics with flat-shaded polygons, vector shapes, rather than traditional bitmap sprites. This was inspired by the fluid animation of Laserdisc games like Dragon's Lair. Chahi realized he could achieve similar cinematic scenes using vector outlines, which would require only a fraction of the computer memory compared to storing full bitmap images. He programmed the graphics routines in low-level assembly language to optimize performance, reportedly achieving about 20 frames per second on the Commodore Amiga, a major breakthrough that proved his unconventional approach was feasible on 16-bit hardware. To create smooth, lifelike motion for characters, Chahi took advantage of the Amiga's Genlock capabilities to perform rotoscoping. He filmed himself performing actions, like running, jumping, and swinging from ropes, and then traced these movements into polygon animations in the game. The result was remarkably fluid character motion and cinematic cutscene sequences integrated directly into gameplay. Chahi initially experimented with using many small polygons, which he dubbed pixigons, to construct the background scenery as well, converting artwork from deluxe paint into vector data. However, this process proved excruciatingly slow, so he reverted to using traditional bitmap images for most backgrounds in the final game. The characters and dynamic objects remained polygonal, which, combined with the hand-painted backdrops, gave Another World a unique visual style, abstract and minimalistic, yet smooth and vividly animated. Another bold design choice was to eliminate on-screen interface elements and text altogether to maintain immersion. Chahi wanted a dramatic cinematic experience with no HUD or dialogue, so the player's focus stays on the on-screen action and visual storytelling at all times. This was unusual for the era and contributed to the game's distinctive atmosphere. To choreograph the complex sequences of events, camera cuts, and scripted actions, Chahi even built his own scripting language on top of the engine. Using a combination of GFA Basic and assembly code, he created an animation sequencer that would interpret scripted events in real time, effectively a custom tool to direct the movie that is another world within the game engine. All of these innovations, the polygon engine, rotoscoped animation, minimalist design, and custom scripting, enabled Another World to deliver cinematic visual storytelling on home computers in a way few had seen before, cementing its reputation as a technical and artistic marvel in gaming history. Eric Chahi was already a veteran of the French games industry by the late 1980s, having worked as a programmer and then a graphic artist on various titles since 1983. His big break came as the artist for Future Wars, 1989, a successful adventure game by Delphine Software. The royalties and acclaim from Future Wars gave Chahi the financial freedom and confidence to embark on an ambitious personal project with no outside constraints or editorial pressure. That project became Another World. Chahi viewed Another World as a deeply personal artistic endeavor, a game he alone would design and code to fully realize his vision. "I felt that I had something very personal to communicate," he later said, "and in order to bring my vision to others, I had to develop the title on my own." He then famously spent the next 2 years working 16 to 18 hours a day in his parents' basement to bring Another World to life. This intense, solitary effort was driven by just 2 guiding ideas Chahi started with. He wanted to make a cinematic science fiction adventure, and he wanted to use polygonal graphics to do it. During development, Chahi drew inspiration from many sources of science fiction and art. The game's atmosphere and imagery were influenced by sci-fi novels. He was reading Frank Herbert's Dune and Dan Simmons' Hyperion, as well as the paintings of artists like Michael Whelan and the dark fantasy art of H.R. Geiger. Even Japanese manga, such as Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball, informed his style. For example, the way action is conveyed with minimal dialogue and visual speed lines, or how the characters charge up energy blasts, echoed in Another World through Lester's plasma gun. Chahi's development approach was highly improvisational and driven by emotion. He created the story organically as he coded, adding ideas on the fly rather than following a rigid design document. Notably, the inclusion of the alien friend Buddy was not planned from the start. Chahi decided partway through development that Lester should have an ally, reflecting the loneliness and isolation he himself felt making the game solo. This improvisation led to memorable cinematic moments of cross-species friendship that enriched the narrative. Another World launched to positive reviews in Europe and North America, praising its cinematic graphics and atmospheric storytelling, though some noted its difficulty and brevity. Over time, it achieved cult classic status, and by Chahi's estimate, it sold around 1 million copies in the 1990s, an impressive number for an indie project released initially on 16-bit computers. The game's influence can be seen in many later titles that adopt cinematic presentation and minimal dialogue, and it's often cited as a progenitor of the cinematic platformer genre. Eric Chahi himself became renowned as an author in the gaming community. In fact, Chahi has said that Another World is his own personal favorite among his works, and he has overseen modern re-releases of the game for its 15th and 20th anniversaries to introduce it to new generations of players. Over 3 decades later, Another World endures as a testament to Chahi's singular vision and the timeless power of imaginative game design.